So, Digby, we're talking about, and it's possible to overestimate the implications of this, I think, and to sort of exaggerate the size of the shift here. But Brad Delong, is he's not a backbencher when it comes to sort of democratic online, self-described neoliberal economist. In that world, he's pretty well known, and so this is not nothing, as it were, that he has come out and renounced the neoliberal programmatic agenda from a political perspective, saying that it has politically failed and we can't go back and we must turn to the left for our coalition and our solutions, because that's the price of admission to get any type of progress, even if they are flawed in some respect. But he was talking about the neoliberal Rubin wing of the Democratic Party as having been unsuccessful politically, but it really was also unsuccessful economically, right? Like the whole premise of this movement was that growth in some way brings benefit to everybody, and these folks, presume that their process was going to increase growth. It did not, and to the extent that it did not have the supposed effects that it was supposed to have. Right? I mean, it was supposed to be a rising tide lifts all boats, and in fact, what happened was the tide didn't rise as much as they said it did, and to the extent that it didn't rise all boats. It rose some very narrow subset of boats, as it were, and they further go on to say that if we deregulate and get rid of antitrust, there's going to be an outbreak of innovation and dynamism in the market, and just the opposite happened. We got less new businesses starting. We had less businesses existing. And all of that sort of like mergers and acquisitions, as it were, cut down on the dynamism of our economy and hurt workers. So there was a big failure on both accords. What is your sense going into this 2020 election of the implications of a guy like Brad Delong coming out and saying, we were wrong and we should look to the left for our solutions, both, from as a practical political matter, but also from a policy perspective?
Well, I think it's going to make a difference, because what that does is it sort of it validates the argument within the Democratic Party in a way that makes it possible. I mean, I'm not, look, there's going to be an argument. This is not going to be just okay, well, Alexandria, just tell us what to do and we'll do it.
Right.
I mean, that's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen, honestly. I mean, it deserves to be hashed out within the party. There are, a number of point of views, but what he's saying, and I think this is true on both policy and on politics, is that let us stop assuming that we have, that there's anything to be learned from the the conservative views on these things. They have failed even worse than the neoliberals did. So let's not. I mean, look at the George Bush administration. Right. They have failed even worse than the neoliberals, and to the extent that neoliberals, sort of compromised with them and worked with them and did all that, that was a tremendous failure. So we no longer have to take that into account. So the argument then turns to the left, and what that means is that the more center-left types will be arguing with the more leftist types, and you'll be coming up with policies and politics that are leftward focused. And I really think that that's a huge change, because throughout, I don't remember a time since it's since Reagan, really, that everything in American politics, both policy and politically, has been focused on the right. Everything we looked at, people just said outright, this is a conservative country. That's what you got to do. And that did not work. And it is not a conservative country. You can see, I think that Donald Trump is the absolute, nadir of the conservative movement, and we can see what that has become. And that is not a majoritarian view. So it's a huge opportunity if the Democrats and the coalition within it, which is, it's very big. There are a lot of different factions within the Democratic Party, all with their own concerns, all trying to push their own things. This is not easy, and coalition politics isn't easy, but it does mark a change from the idea of being in this sort of defensive posture and looking at, how do we fight off the right? How do we sort of keep to our principles but try to accommodate them and don't make them too mad and try to figure out what to do? That seems to be falling away. And, I'm not saying you can ignore them. They are going to exist, and they're going to be as malevolent as ever. I don't think they're dead yet. But as far as the way that the party is going to be looking to this next election and beyond, I think it is a different focus looking into the future, and a better one, to be honest. Assuming that Donald Trump doesn't somehow, come out of this on top and get re-election, I think this new era is potentially a very positive one.
There were two things that struck me, too, was that Brad Delong had to say about the Never Trumpers, like, where were you over the past 25 years as you realized all these people around you that you were taking meetings with were horrible? That I enjoyed. And I also have to say that I think, what's going to be fascinating is the implications for like a Biden or a Cory Booker or a Klobuchar in many respects.
Yeah.
In this, because they no longer have the intellectual cover for their positions. They've just lost a very big voice, it seems to me, that at the very least that, this idea of Joe Biden getting up there and going like, Mike Pence is a good guy and bless me, Father, I have sinned because I like Republicans. That no longer has some type of establishment sort of credibility and cover. And I think stuff like that's going to be very problematic, particularly for Joe Biden.
Even the Obama people are saying that. I read another thing where a bunch of them are just going, hey, Joe, Amy, or the other guy, John Hickenlooper. No, we tried it. It didn't work. So, I think that hopefully that much at least is over with. I hope.
Oh, and the funny thing is I know that you and I lamented this 6 years ago, probably to the day, as we saw the Obama administration move in this manner. But Digby, we can talk more about it next week, for better or for worse. I appreciate it. As always, thanks so much for joining me.